Good morning. We pretty well missed the rain yesterday. Got just a half a tenth or so. No big deal. So we're gonna go and keep putting some anhydrous on. Not gonna be super warm and nice today, high 60s and cloudy. But after today, things start warming up and getting sunnier, and gonna be in the 80s over the weekend here. It sounds like so. It's gonna be a good stretch. We're gonna try and get a lot done. We might go up and look at starting that rain machine up or messing with that. Maybe I should do that this morning. Let it air out a little bit. Nah, it's all right. We'll do it later. But yeah, I would say today or tomorrow we're going to get that thing running. Well, maybe not here this morning. Ground's damp on top. I didn't think it would be sticky, but it is sticking to my gauge wheels a little bit, and we're not sealing worth of crap. Look at that. We got all kinds of stuff gassing out. That normally does not happen with this bar. I don't like it, and I think the damp soil is a little sticky, and it's sticking to my gauge wheels, which makes me lose depth. So we're gonna burn some corn if we do this, and we're gonna lose some gas. Now that looks like a lot. That's probably a little bit. I mean, it looks worse than it is, right? The volume of the vapor compared to the liquid is significant. But that's why when you get just a little puff, we don't worry about it. When we get a cloud like that, it's going to be a problem. So I think we're going to give it a couple hours. Let's go move our rain machine out into the field. Come out here and look real quick, but yeah, see this? Dirt sticking to my gauge wheels. I don't like that. So just gonna verify that all my hoses are still on the tubes and nothing's falling off, and that's why it looks so bad. All these are good. That one there we got a vapor line off, so that's part of it, and that one we got a vapor line off. So that's part of it. So we can fix those. I have to get my gloves and my mask. Those ones in the center were the worst. Those are all good. Jump back down here. That one's good, and good. All right, well, let's fix those two vapor lines and make another round on these ends and see if that's better. Well, that tube is plugged. I can't get that through there. I don't know if the dirt froze or what the deal is, but I can't poke it out, so the shop's right there with the air compressor. Let's just go use it. At some point today, I'll try and explain how the anhydrous system on this bar works, why we have vapor lines and liquid lines, what the point is, what all now, you can't see it very good, but those coolers and valves and what everything does there. We'll talk about that later. But right now, we're going to get it running. And then we might let it air out anyway, just because I don't like that dirt sticking to those gauge wheels. Well, this one's going to be more difficult than necessary. I cannot get that freed up. This one, I got just fine. But we're going to have to take the whole boot off here. And maybe put a new tube on it. Okay, here's our tubes. So there's two tubes on this row. The small one is the liquid line. That's where the bulk of the anhydrous, that's where 99.9%-ish of the anhydrous goes out, and that's liquid. The bigger one is the vapor tube. That's to make everything work like it's supposed to. Again, I'll explain this when we're running later. But this one, you can see there's a very short distance to attach that 3/4 inch tube. The small ones are a smaller tube, and you can stick it on a lot farther and clamp it down good, so they don't fall off hardly ever. But these big ones, because it's such a short distance and it's a bigger tube and it's harder to clamp it on there, sometimes they come off. Not a big deal, but then you get dirt in it, and you got to take it off to clean it out. So I got it. Took a lot. Used air. We used a file to push through it. And anyway, I'm going to bolt this back together. We'll put it back on. Alright, I got that put back together. We're going to go try it again. I'm pretty sure it's still, we're going to need to give it a little time, but should be better than it was, or at least look a lot better. We'll see. It's better. It's not perfect. but it is better. That one row over there, but it's in a compacted tire track zone. So when the ground is compacted from being run over in the past, the anhydrous, the liquid and the gas cannot permeate through the soil as well, so it kind of comes back up through the trench. And as long as you, that's what the beaver tails are on there, try and break that apart. And generally, if you have the right ground conditions, it still seals up mostly pretty well, but this isn't perfect here. Well, I decided to try and get some end rows done. One minute I look at the bar and think it's not too bad, and then the next minute I look and it's doing that, and I'm like, well, that's not good. We can't be doing that. So, but half that pass, it was like not leaking at all. I'm like, all right, well, that's good. See, this side here is really good, but that side there is not. Now that side is in the planter wheel tracks. And then the pass right next to that last clip, and there's nothing leaking out. Like, this is perfect. So, do I keep going or not? For right now, we do. I just got the front and back ends done, and I was gonna sit and wait a little bit if I didn't think it was good, but I don't know, this is pretty good. You get a little leakage, but that's not bad there. I don't know. Once I got off the end rows, everything seems to be working better. So we kept going, and we've made it quite a ways. Can you see this difference between those rows right there? Yeah, this is the edge of my high management standard practice plot, which the only difference to this point is no starter fertilizer, starter fertilizer. Wow, that's dramatic. So we'll see what that means in yield. We're going to do a bunch of other things, you know, with the sprays, application stuff, V5 fungicide, VT fungicide, applying source, applying some foliars, some sugar, all that kind of stuff. But we did not do much different or anything different with the side dress application, which is why it doesn't matter that it's in the middle of the pass that we're doing right now, because we're putting the same amount of nitrogen all the way across it. And then we may wide drop the high management side of it and put a little more nitrogen on there, but from an anhydrous standpoint, it all gets the same. I was doing these end rows here, and I found this little remote control glider plane thing laying out in the field. I'm guessing it came from this house over here, so we're gonna just toss it back out into their yard so they can find it. It must be somebody mowed their driveway. I don't know who did that. County maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I bet there's a camera shot in here, picture, if I can get the right angle. The farm over there. So I found a setting that I had a little bit off with the hydraulics. So this has, it uses active down pressure through the hydraulic system to keep the openers in the ground, just like a air seeder or a drill would. And I didn't have my hydraulic flow or settings right on the tractor, so I got that corrected. And then there's a couple of gauges down there that show me the pressure. I turned them up a little bit, and it's keeping the units in the ground better, and we're sealing a lot better. Glad I caught that. Last little bit here, and we've got this one done. 54 acres done. This tank's not empty, but there's not much left in it. We're gonna head on up to the next field. I could jump right across the road, but there's another field on the other side of those trees over there that's a little bit farther along, so it's a bigger corn, so we're gonna go there. Well, I was going along doing some end rows on this next field and saw that. That is an automatic stop every single time you see something that looks like a dang spear that will go through a tire. Holy cow, look at that one. Yeah. It's an old fence post, but yeah, that'd poke a tire real fast. So the field we're in now is 140 acres. Goes clear back over by those trees there. The rows do run two different directions. We've got these here. We jump across this little pond over there. So we're doing these rows here. We'll jump across this. There's a pond there. Do these, and then we'll start into the long rows as we work our way to the east there. Pretty good farm, and we've had really good corn here in the past. We did put chicken litter on here last year, so we did drop our nitrogen rates a little bit. I was a little hesitant to do that because I'm like, but I don't want to short this corn. Like I would rather put too much nitrogen on than too little. I know that's not cost effective, but like we're off to a pretty good start. If we have good weather throughout the season, we have really good corn yield potential. So we need to make sure we're not shorting it. Well, we're in the long rows now. I'm going to move across here reasonably quickly. Got 60 acres done of the 140, so it won't take us too terribly long. You guys remember that corn over-treatment that we used this spring? I think and still think, maybe it was called Applicator. I know I had some bags that came pre-treated with that, but then they gave me a jug and it was supposed to treat a box, so we ran that box through the treater and it stunk really bad. You guys couldn't smell it, but it stunk really bad. Anyway, the seed care guys, I don't know how many, the guy that I work with, and he said so I don't know what that means, but they want to come and look at that corn, so they're going to be here in half hour or so. I might shut the tractor off and go take a look at some cornfields with them guys. I have two different spots where I have reasonably good side-by-side data with it, with the treatment and without. So we'll go and do that. We got plenty of time to get this done still. Like I said, we're way ahead of the game on side dressing. I don't know if we'll be quite half done by the end of today, but we're going to be darn close. And it's not even June yet. So I'm feeling really good about where we're at. We can take a half an hour to an hour to go walk some cornfields if I need to do that. And see what things look like. My guys are here to go check out that corn. We changed tanks. We're up to 78 acres done here. Oh, really good. Having a good day. So we're out here in one of our cornfields. This was planted on April 30th, which was right before we started getting that rain. In fact, the field right over there is where we got rained out and had to come back in and plant some later. But right, so there's one of these passes, this one, follows that dike, and then we have some partial fill-ins, and this is kind of the split where we had the same variety without, I'm going to call it Applicator, and with. Turns out I was using the wrong name. It's called Trebuchet or something. I don't know. Applicator is a component of it, but there's a lot more to it. So anyway, we're taking some stand counts and dug some plants here. I don't know. That one and that one seem to have more roots than this one and this one do. Could be something to it. Just getting back to the tractor here. We went and looked at, I had two fields. We looked at that one there. That one had the same variety. The other one was a different variety next to the treated stuff. And yeah, we'll see. There was a little bit of difference in the results, or in the root mass on that first field. The second field was hard to tell much difference at all. Stand counts were higher on the treated side than the non-treated in both places, but only by 1 or 2 plants per thousandth of an acre, so I don't know if it's significant. But yeah, it'll be interesting to follow that. So update on that. So I've been calling it Applicator, right? I've called it Applicator from the very beginning because I had a plot bag that said Applicator on it. So that's just kind of what it was. And the jug that they gave me didn't have a name. It just had some numbers and stuff that I didn't know what they were calling it. But apparently the Applicator is actually Applicator Energy, and that is the seaweed extract components of this treatment. It's not the total treatment. That's just kind of one component of it. The treatment itself is called Trebuchet, and it has adapidin in it, which adapidin is the same active ingredient that we have in our Saltro that we're using on soybeans. So that's a fungicide component, and I'm pretty sure, it's got Viantis in it. What is Viantis? I'm trying to remember the active name, but anyway, it's got a couple extra fungicides in it, as well as that seaweed extract, and kind of
plant growth promoter type stuff. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to follow that through the year. We'll see if we get any results from it or not. It's something that we may or may not be using in the future, and they just kind of wanted to follow up on the trial and take a look at it. We are in some of our long half-mile passes here that give me a chance to talk and not have to turn so much. So let's talk about how exactly this anhydrous applicator works from a liquid handling standpoint. That's what we're going to cover in today's tutorial. So we talked the other day about anhydrous ammonia, NH3, and what exactly it is and how it behaves. And if you'll remember back to that, I told you that it behaves a lot like propane does, in that it is a gas, which is a liquid under pressure or under cold temperatures. And so as soon as we kind of release it, you see it as a white vapor, because that's the form that it takes as it's not under pressure anymore and as it warms up. But as we pressurize it inside these tanks, we can store it as a liquid. And that's important because it is very, very hard to measure the volume or the weight of a gas, right? And so we need to be able to meter it as a liquid. So we're going to start at the tank and kind of work our way forward. I'm going to do my best to point out things to you as we go here, and so you can tell what everything is. It's a fairly simple system, but there is a lot to it. So inside our tanks here, these are 1,450 gallon tanks. They hold roughly 3 tons of anhydrous ammonia, and there is a withdrawal valve right there on the top that we hook our hose that is a part of our bar to. We have a valve on each side of it. There are little bleeder valves on it, so we can empty, you know, the little space between the connections there, between the valves when we're changing tanks, stuff like that, and keep everything isolated well. You'll follow that hose forward, and kind of right there behind that green plate, there is a breakaway coupler. If something would happen where the tank came unhooked, the hitch broke, the pin broke, the hitch on the bar broke, something like that, and it separated, you don't want to drag that tank around with a hose. The hose would break. It is designed to come apart there and seal and stop so that it doesn't just start leaking everywhere. Also worth noting that there is a safety built into the valve on the tank, where if it started putting too much anhydrous out at a time, like it was kind of free-flowing, it would snap shut and close in order to prevent uncontrolled ammonia escapes. So from there, that hose kind of snakes around and it comes over to the back over here, and it goes through a T, which I'm not going to be able to show you real well. Let me see if I zoom in, if we can see that T. It's kind of right in the center there, underneath where those 3 hoses are coming down, and it splits and goes through a shutoff valve on each side. So you can see the one blue handle there. That is a shutoff valve. There's another one on the other side, and then we go through a strainer. There's a screen in both lines now to catch any rust or contaminants or any particles that may be in there. And then we go into these 2 white boxes here, square tubes. Those are our Raven super coolers. Now, essentially, those work. This is going to be really hard to explain because I can't demonstrate it very much. But it's very similar to how an air conditioner works. And I know most of you have no idea how an air conditioner works, so I'm going to attempt to explain it. But essentially, we're taking a small amount of the liquid anhydrous ammonia, and we're taking that out of the lines going to the rest of the bar. I'll show you where it comes out in a little bit here. And we're running them back through inside of these coolers into a tube in the center. It goes right in the center. And the liquid ammonia coming out of the tanks under pressure is flowing around the outside of that tube inside of the square parts of the coolers there. So essentially what we're trying to do is keep that ammonia as cold as possible in order to not require the pressure to keep it liquid, right? Because ammonia boils at negative 28 degrees Fahrenheit, anhydrous ammonia. And so if we can keep it below negative 28 degrees Fahrenheit, we don't have to keep it under pressure. We can apply it to the soil as a liquid as long as it's cold. Now, it's obviously not going to stay that cold for very long, but essentially what happens is the supply ammonia under pressure is coming in around the outside of this inner tube that's about 1 inch diameter from what I understand. And inside of that tube, we have a liquid line that runs, and it forces some ammonia through an orifice. And what happens when you force it through a small orifice like that, I think it's a 3/16 of an inch orifice is what I read somewhere. But basically what happens is after it goes through that orifice, it expands. And now all of a sudden, it is under zero pressure. Well, we know that under zero pressure, ammonia is negative 28 degrees. And so it cools the rest of that ammonia around the outside of that tube down. And it kind of, so once it's under zero pressure, now we have vapor inside of there, very cold, but it's vapor. And it's gonna push through, and that's where our vapor lines come into play. Right, so you see those frosty lines? There's 4 of them that are a bigger diameter. We talked about this earlier when we were cleaning out that knife that had the vapor tube on it. They're 3/4 inch diameter tubes because we don't want to build any pressure in there. The idea is to allow that ammonia to free flow through there. So basically, we're feeding a small amount in on the back side there, right into the center, into the stream where not into the same stream, but into the center of the stream, you know, into the pipe that goes in the center of the stream of the ammonia flowing through. It then comes to the end of this cooler and works around the outside of it, basically gets back to the end where it started, and then on that end there's some seals or whatever it is, and it comes out as vapor. We run those down to 4 of the knives have the vapor tubes. There's 2 for each cooler, and that is how we keep it cold. It's basically exactly how an air compressor or a refrigerator, air conditioner, anything like that works, except for those systems have a pump in order to pressurize stuff. This, we're using the pressure from the tank, so we don't actually have to pump it. We don't recapture it. We just inject that into the soil. It's a very small amount, so it's negligible in the grand scheme of things, but it keeps it cold enough that we can then meter it. So then the liquid still and cold anhydrous ammonia comes out the bottom of those coolers, right there, that black elbow right there coming out the bottom. And from there, it comes back together with the stuff coming out of the other cooler. So now we have one line again, and it's that pipe right there through the center, right? So there's a flow meter down there that you can't see. I don't think I can show it to you. But essentially, the lines come together. It then goes through a flow meter. There's the sensor part of it right there. That's telling us how much flow we have. There's the readout for that right there. 27.8 gallons per minute, 0.6, 0.4, whatever it is. That is the calculation that the rate controller is then using in order to adjust the amount of flow that it's going to allow through the servo valve. So after we come out of that flow meter, we come up here, we go through an elbow into a T, or that's really a cross there. On the top side of that, we've got a pressure and a temperature gauge. And I really don't pay much attention to them at all, but they're there. You'll then notice those 2 black boxes. Those are valves. One of them, the first one, is a master on-off switch. When I click the master switch, right down there, it turns that valve off, which stops the flow of anhydrous. The second one is our servo valve, or a control valve. And that is a butterfly valve that opens and closes based on what rate we want to put on. So here we're shooting for, it's map-based, 171 pounds per acre, what speed we're driving, and what width we're applying at, right? So if a section shuts off, we need less anhydrous flowing through our flow meter, so it's going to turn the flow down, so it's going to close that butterfly valve some. If we speed up, we need more flow, it's going to open that butterfly valve some. If our rate changes, we need more or less flow, depending on that. So that's how we're controlling it, is through that servo valve there that opens and closes based on what the rate controller tells it to do. Okay, so now we're to this point. We have metered it out in a liquid stage. We have controlled the flow of it. So then right behind there, you'll notice those 2 yellow handles with another T in there. That's where we're drawing off the small amount of what we're going to call the refrigerant lines that are running back, and that's the stuff that's expanding and then coming out the vapor tubes. So we're pulling it out of there, running it through those two 3/16 orifices, one for each cooler. All right, from there it goes through a check valve, okay, so that it can only flow in one direction, the direction that we want it to flow. I can't really see that very good here, but it's there. It then goes through an elbow and up into this first distributor. That is a John Blue Impelicone, and it has 4 ports, but we are only using 3 of them. Whoa, zoom out. We are using 3 of them because we have 3 sections on this bar. And so those are larger hoses that come out of there, and that thing essentially divides the flow up. That piece with the little screws on top, the 3 big elbows coming out of it, that divides the flow between our 3 sections. So from there, we can follow one of those hoses, and it comes over to the center of our bar for our middle section right here. Let's see. That hose is kind of right there. It's covered in mud and stuff because it gets wet, but we've got another one of those black boxes. So that is our section valve, right? So that valve opens and closes. It's either on or off. It's not a servo, based on whether or not that section needs to be on. So you'll see our 3 sections here with the little blue triangles. That means that they are on and applying. If we got into a situation where we were overlapping, it would shut off the sections, probably from the outside and then maybe the middle if you only needed one side or whatever. Or I can push these arrow buttons here and do that manually, and that will just turn off that section. Now, as soon as that happens, the monitor says, hey, wait a minute, we only have, 10 rows applying instead of 15. We need less flow. It needs to be this amount. So then our servo reacts and everything else to adjust the rate. All happens very, very quickly. But it goes through that valve on each section. There's 3 of them, one for each one of the sections. And then we go through another elbow and we go up into the bottom of another distributor. Now this one is a smaller one, and it has lots more ports on it. I don't know how many there are. 12 maybe? 15? I'm not sure. But we use 5 of them for each one of these sections. Well, kind of. We use 5 in the middle. We actually have hoses coming out of 6 on the wings, but we have our half rates turned off where that yellow handle is there. So we're only using 5. Essentially, those are doing the same thing as our big one is, just on a smaller scale with smaller lines coming out of it, and that is dividing the flow up between each individual row. And then you'll notice this big coil of small hose that we have there. It is important to note that because we do not have any more orifices in the line, that from the distributors on, it is important for the lines to all be the same length. Otherwise, there will be some differences in flow between them. There is also on those distributors a line that comes out to a pressure gauge. You'll notice those 3 pressure gauges we have right there in the middle, and they're all basically identical because they're all running under the same pressure. But as the sections shut off, or as we run out of anhydrous in the tanks, we can start seeing those pressure gauges dropping off or totally shutting off if you shut a section off. So anyway, from there we go out to the individual applicator rows, into the knives or the boots, and then into the ground. Understand? Understand. Okay. I know it's sort of hard to understand how those coolers work. It took me a while to figure it out as well, but essentially it works like an air conditioner where you're using a refrigerant passed through an orifice in order to create a cooling effect, and that keeps our ammonia at a cool enough temperature and with enough pressure that we can meter it effectively, because it's much, much easier to meter a liquid than it is a gas. So that's what those 2 boxes are for there. Now, I think that we need to give those some attention when we're done here. Hopefully we'll be able to finish everything with them. But I've noticed the vapor line starting to leak more. Not just when we stop and turn on the ends, but like when I shut it off overnight. the ammonia that is inside those coolers will continue to kind of bleed off, and it's coming out of the vapor lines. And so I think that we might have some O-rings or some seals that are going bad in there. They still function properly, they just don't shut off properly. So that's what those two little yellow valves are for up there. I can just close those and it totally shuts that off. I shut the tank off at night anyway, but there's a lot of anhydrous in the hoses in the system that will bleed off if I don't close those valves as well. So anyway, I think that is all of the components. Questions, let me know. And after all of that, our tank is just about empty, and we will need to switch it probably when we get up to the end here. Made it through this field, last pass here. What a deal. We're gonna jump right across the road. We've got 30 acres there to do, and we'll keep her moving here. So we're gonna have another really big day today. After we get that one done, we'll be pushing our 250 acres on the day again. I don't know, I haven't done the math yet, but it's a lot. Like I said, there's about 31 acres here. You can see we had a bunch of volunteer wheat growing in this field that, well, our herbicide is killing. It's gonna take care of it. So our Storin that we use this year for corn herbicide seems to have worked really, really well. The next field is that one, right through the trees there. We'll probably go start on the far side of it, but that's where we're gonna go. And we're gonna have to go back for fuel before we get in there anyway. Wraps up this one, 31 acres. Good deal. We need fuel and DEF. We're about out of DEF. This tractor seems to use a abnormally high amount of DEF. I have 3 rows along this house lot to finish here, so that's what we're doing. Like, I will burn through a tank of DEF faster than a tank of fuel, which doesn't seem like it should be that way. I don't know. Doesn't throw any codes. Everything runs fine. Doesn't seem to be a problem, other than that, you know, it's DEF. Shouldn't have to use it at all. But yeah, I wonder if that's something I need to ask the service manager about. So it's 7 o'clock. We've covered about 225 acres today, which is a darn good day. Let's see, I have 128, 60, 65, and 72. That's what we've got left of the April planted corn. It's 2 days no matter what I do. I could get all of it but the 72 done tomorrow. Yeah, I don't know. If I worked super late tonight, we could probably get it done tomorrow, but why? What's the point? Got the 8RX all fueled up here. Good to go. I'm gonna take the fuel trailer up and we're gonna go fuel up the rain machine, and we're gonna see if we can't get that walked out into the field maybe here. We're not gonna start it tonight, but we might try and get it to its home point so that we can start it a little quicker tomorrow. I think we're gonna try that tomorrow. Fueling, getting the engine shields put back on. I need to see if it's gonna start. I got a low voltage message yesterday, day before. The battery might be dead because we didn't flip the disconnects after we were up here working on it the other day when I was side dressing this corn. So I did bring jumper cables to see if it'll start. I wanna start it before I put the shield on because the battery is under the shield. Turns out there's fancy little battery posts right there, right next to the disconnect that I should have hit and didn't. So I put that shield on, but I'm not able to get this to start. The battery was dead enough that it can't connect to the internet, to the cell network, to whatever, to turn on, or for me to control it from my phone. The keypad buttons, there's a light on, but the buttons don't seem to want to do anything. So I think it's got to charge for a while. I'll sit here for a few minutes running it off my truck, but we might have to bring the actual battery charger up here. And fortunately, we have an outlet right there. We can do that. We can run it from up here. So, you know, we'll make that happen if necessary. Oh, it's beeping. Maybe. Let's see if it gives it a shot. Yes! What a deal. Okay, we're moving. I'm gonna try and walk this out here and get it on a path. So the end of path 1 right there is what I'm shooting for. And if I can get it out there, then it should be able to look up to that path and then automatically walk itself out to the home point. So that's what we're gonna try for. But we gotta get it turned around too, because I need this end facing the other way. Gonna be our lucky day, people. Found a horseshoe. Let's see. Put that right there for now. All right, so we're moving. We're trying to make this turn to get lined up with the rows out here somewhere. I have got it out here on what I think is the right rows, based on where I'm at there, and I just told it to go into auto mode. And it's going that way. Let's see if it's just going to the end of the path here. Yeah, it's just going to go to the end of this path and then turn around, I think. At least that's what I'm hoping. I turned off the water, the liquid system, so it's not trying to turn the well on, which it wouldn't be able to anyway because the breaker is off, but at least this way it doesn't think that it's supposed to have pressure and then shut itself down. Okay, you gonna stop? There, it stopped. Now let's see if it comes back to me. Yep, there it comes. All right, good deal. I'm gonna walk with it and follow it all the way out to the home point just to make sure that it doesn't run into our home point out there by the riser. We'll see how it makes its turns and everything, but it should be good. I've got it on manual at the keypad, so that's why it's not doing anything with the hose. Obviously, we don't want it to suck hose in right now because it's all in. I didn't really want it to lay it out. We got to get this reconnected to our riser out there before we do any of that. So, looks good so far. Jumped up to the captain's perch here, so I don't have to walk. If you're wondering what the heck this thing is because you're new and weren't here last year when we were running this, don't worry, you will see lots about it. But this is a 360 yield center, 360 rain machine, and we got it last year. It was the first year we ran it. This is our second year with it. Essentially, this is autonomous irrigation. This thing will sit out here and run 24/7, watering our corn, spoon feeding water and nutrients right on the base of the rows. You'll get to see it in action probably soon, although we'll see. Phil seemed to think it was going to rain tomorrow or tomorrow night, and I'm like, oh, well, I hadn't seen that, but we'll see. If it does, then we won't need this. And I want to be clear, we are not dry. Like, we are not in a drought. It is not, our corn is not suffering at all right now. However, this thing cost me very, very little to turn it on. We've got a teeny tiny little diesel engine over there that will run for a month on a fill of fuel, which we just did. And we have line power from the electric company. I'm not running a diesel generator this year to supply water. My electricity cost is significantly lower than it was a year ago. So, we turn it on and we run it. We're gonna run it as much as we need to run it. And whatever that means, it means. And we're not gonna fall behind. We don't put a lot of water on per pass with this, and so we need to cover the field a lot of times, and that means we have to get started before it gets dry. So we are cruising along at a whopping top speed of 7.8 inches per second. Oh, 7.9. I've never seen it hit 8. We've seen 7.9. And you can see some of the other statistics there. We are getting our battery charged up, so that is good. Hopefully enough by the time we get out there and run this thing for half hour, 45 minutes, that it'll be, you know, charged up enough to start tomorrow, or whenever we do start it. I'll hit the disconnects before we leave tonight. And let's see, what else? There's our camera view of our steer tire. There's our hose out the back. Now this camera the other day was pretty blurry. I guess it's not so bad now. I wondered if we got some moisture in it, but you can see it there. What else can we see? Steering. You can see our actual versus what it's telling it. Hydraulic pressures, all that looks fine to me. Engine, 12.5 volts, oil pressure, temperature, fluid, fuel level, 89%. I just fueled it up, 89%. I can't get it full. Look at that number, 1,299 engine hours. That's where we start the year, at 1,300. Hose, we're not actually laying any hose out, so there's nothing really to look at there. Traverser, same thing. We're not really doing anything with it. And the liquid system is off. Okay. We are following the green line back to the home point. I should tell it to go home, otherwise it will try to go on path 3. Yeah. Stop. And oh, it's remembering where it left off. I don't know if I wanted to do that, but that's okay. Should have waited till I got closer. It's fine. We are approaching our riser. Now we're gonna go past it here, and if you'll remember, which you will, because we just sighted just this a couple days ago, we have a pass of corn that goes perpendicular to the rows. We should go and line up with those rows, make a 90-degree turn, and then come over here and make another 90-degree turn. We'll see if that happens or not. You can see the cross patch pattern from when I side dressed through those rows. It's fine. It'll be fine. Hey guys, next year remind me that my section control is off by 1 row. Let's see. It's turning on too early, I believe. Is that right? Pretty sure the turn on is too early. That's what that little bit of overlap is. Every other planter pass. The other way is perfect. Well, we've made our first 90-degree turn here, and we are in the right spot. Gonna follow these rows. I think this is gonna make it run over a little bit less corn this year. We're still gonna knock a bunch of this down, making the turns and where the hose gets laid out and stuff. But at least we'll be following rows and not driving across it, which should also keep it from pulling on my drops and you know, ripping those off, which I think we fixed anyway, but it won't hurt anything. And we eliminated a set of end rows back there that's going to make this much more efficient. That was the big reason we did this here, but I think this will be useful. And we are turning back towards the home point. Now here's where I kind of want to watch it. I want to make sure that we get close enough, but not too close to where we want this thing to start. Yeah, we're in the corner over there, but these ones curve around that, so I'm gonna run some over. Nothing I can do about it. No big deal. Perfect. Perfect. So here is our other end of our pipe buried from our well up there, and you'll notice we don't have a path out here this year because, well, the pipe's already buried, so we didn't have to bury it and leave a path. So, you know, we shouldn't really need to come out here very often, but we got to get this hooked back up, so this will stretch out, and we might have to spit some of that hose out, but it'll hook up right to that. That is a 3-inch hose coming out of there. We'll secure these chains to the connection to these pipes and should be ready to go. I do not have the tools to do that now, so I'm not going to mess with it. You know, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. Went ahead and shut it down. We'll hit our battery disconnect here so that it's not dead when we come back. Should be tomorrow, but we'll see.
All right, that's probably it for today. No, that's it for today. I'm walking up to the truck and we're gonna go home. Tomorrow, we're gonna keep side dressing corn. We need one more really big day to get the early corn mostly done. One more big day and a half day. So that's probably tomorrow. Now, depending on what the weather and the rain looks like, I looked at my phone. It says like 20% chance tomorrow evening or afternoon in the evening, and I don't think we're going to really get any rain. So I'm thinking we might start this up. I don't know if I'm going to have time tomorrow is the problem. If I start side dressing and I get rolling, I'm not going to want to stop to come up here and mess with that. Brock's going to be around tomorrow, though, so I might be able to send him up here to get the connections made there. You know, so that it's ready and it doesn't really take me that long to come up here and do it. So we'll see. But yeah, if we don't start it tomorrow, we'll do it Saturday for sure. So have a good night. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Head on over to Farm Focus. Grab yourself a Border View Farm hoodie. I took it off for a couple hours today and then I had to put it back on. But 80 degrees on Monday. It's coming. Summer's still coming. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you.